What is up, Zelda fans? It is your boy HMK once again, and the latest trailer to Tears of the Kingdom changes everything on how we view the game. The hype is insane, and with that being said, let's begin our analysis and secrets to this latest trailer. We have a lot to go over, and I'm sure there's a lot that you probably missed. So with that being said, let's dive directly into the noise. As the trailer begins, we have a rainy opening with dark, grim music and themes. In the first shot, in which we see Hyrule in a pretty devastated state, we can see in the distance Death Mountain pouring out malice, but we also see what looks to be a previous Sheikah shrine being protected by this green Zonai-like energy. We're actually going to see this multiple times in the trailer, which means that Sheikah shrines are going to be adapted with this new theme in some way, shape, or form. As the trailer goes on, we see a ton of lightning in this thunderstorm, which you would think is pretty simple, right? Actually, no. The lightning we see here is unlike the lightning that we've seen in Breath of the Wild. Check it out. While the normal lightning was a bit blue to greenish in Breath of the Wild, this lightning is a very stable yellow. And you know what this makes me think? This is the yellow lightning that Ganondorf utilized in Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. This is his power being established over the world of Hyrule in multiple ways outside of Malice. Another thing to notice is that we have globs of what I'm starting to call Fury Malice or True Malice on the ground. Because this is no longer a purplish pinkish color, this is a fiery pure red. As we continue the trailer, we start to see more structures being built by what I assume to be bokoblins, moblins, but we also have these weird frog bat flying enemies. I really hope this is something new and not this game's version of Kagaroks. Either way, big flying enemies like this was not present in Breath of the Wild, and it looks to be very dastardly in terms of Ganondorf's new forces. In the next shot, this is incredibly ominous. While going through this thunderstorm, we see an inscription on the land of Hyrule that we've seen in the previous Tears of the Kingdom trailer. It is still unknown what this could mean. Could this be a designation point of how the lands will rise into the air? Could this be where we could find a dungeon? In any case, I'm pretty sure these inscriptions are connected to the Zonai in some way, shape, or form. Aside from that, we have these tall structures that are illuminated by light surrounding it. Within the night of the dark thunderstorm, I gotta say these look pretty creepy. Now, these towers could be one of two things. Either enemy watchtowers, where the forces on the ground belonging to evil have way more of a clutch over the land of Hyrule and they use these to survey the area. Or two, these could be the remains or the remnants of Sheikah towers that were busted up but hastily converted into lookout zones for monsters in order to aid surviving forces. As the lightning flashes, we get to see that gigantic cloud tornado thing that we've seen from the box art and the key art to Tears of the Kingdom. But something that's very interesting is that obviously this lightning comes from the clouds that are not too high up considering how high we'll be able to go in Tears of the Kingdom, which once again makes me believe that this lightning is specifically belonging to and summoned by Ganondorf. Next, we have a shot above a floating island with some blue energy in the air. Could it be the essence of Hylia, the essence of Sheikah technology? In either case, this is very high up as we can see another sky isle below this in the distance. And now here we go. Finally, the hard confirmation of the underground in Tears of the Kingdom. You guys don't understand how much I wanted this. It was always alluded to and played around with that we'd be going to the underground in Tears of the Kingdom, but never outright confirmed. This is the hard confirmation of the underground. Here, we can see Malice, or Fury and Malice, infused Lizalfos and bokoblins working away, toiling away, mining something in the underground. Here, we see some really weird structures, a ton of true Fury Malice, some dead trees over in the back, some trees that are actually mushrooms, and a big tree-like trunk that's being illuminated by a core something inside of it. What is that? Something good, something bad? We're gonna have to wait and see. Another thing that a lot of people have missed is that we have these moving, flickering blue flames that are only to the right of this shot in the trailer. They're not in the background, they're not to the left or anything. They're in a very specific spot. So this could either represent spirits on how they're portrayed in Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild, or these are little Poes that may come together to manifest a true Poe for you to fight. But something else to also notice is that as these bokoblins are mining away at this rock, if you look closely, the rock contains, eerily enough, Zonai-like patterns and designs in the stone. That seems odd at first, but it makes a lot of sense if they're looking for something. But now, here we go. You're gonna have to hear this for yourself, but we finally have Ganondorf's voice, in which he's instructing his servants to rise up and clear out this kingdom and her allies to leave no survivors. Honestly, at this point, Ganondorf is pissed. He's like, forget ruling the kingdom, it's time for the kingdom to go. Now, when it comes to who could be possibly voicing Ganondorf, I personally hear a bit of Patrick Syetz, aka the voice of Dio, as well as Jiren, or it could be Matt Mercer, the voice actor of, like, everybody. Let me know who you think it is in the comment section below. But as he's talking, we get to the next shot in which we see the Great Bridge of Hylia, and in the distance we see Death Mountain, we see the Hyrule Castle being floated up by Malice, and we see a giant enemy guarding the bridge. A three-headed dragon with the dragon heads on fire! I mean, it may not look big in this shot, but when you compare the size of the entrance to the bridge, and when you compare that to the size of Link going through the entrance in the bridge, this thing is gigantic. While I'm psyched for new enemies, I'm also psyched for returning enemies that wasn't in Breath of the Wild, because honestly, this thing looks like Gleork. You know, the multi-headed dragon from past Zelda games? But this time, he got fire. While Gleork was mostly a one-off boss in previous Zelda games, I hope that this is a recurring boss enemy that we're going to see multiple times in Tears of the Kingdom. And now we have a shot of Hateno Village, in which once again we see the Zonai swirl within the village, which could be guarding the Sheikah Shrine that's there. This is going to be a new source of magic, a new source of teleporting or something, but it seems that the Zonai and the Sheikah are definitely going to be connected in some way, shape, or form. Next, we see a shot of Link looking towards the Blood Moon. That's right, the Blood Moon is back, baby. And I'm kind of assuming that Link might be in the Temple of Time or one of the random structures that are all over Hyrule. But as Ganondorf's speech is coming to a close, we get a good close-up shot of the Blood Moon, and it's way more detailed than we've ever seen it. And I can see the craters and everything. It's looking pretty angry, like Ganondorf. And as the moon turns the sky into a blood red, we have a shot of the Malice-infested Hyrule Castle, which looks a lot worse than it did in Breath of the Wild, as well as shots of Malice that actually may or may not be coming from the moon itself, because as you slow down the trailer, we see that the shots are coming from under the moon, raining down to Hyrule. But the big kicker to that is that it seems that the moon is empowering these shots of Malice, because at first the Malice is the purplish pinkish color that it was from Breath of the Wild, but as it flies through the sky under the Blood Moon, it changes to a very fierce dark red. So it seems that Ganondorf is utilizing the Blood Moon along with his power to multiply the power of this Malice. And then we see a shot of a red explosion. This shot is more than likely Ganondorf unleashing his full potential in a red Malice blast, as you can see his silhouette for like a split second when you slow down the trailer. Here he's probably exerting his power and establishing his will on his servants all over Hyrule. And as we continue the shot, it kind of looks like that he might have exploded, as this shot is reminding me on how Blights and Calamity Ganon exploded in Breath of the Wild upon their defeat. At most, maybe he decides to give up his body to build a new one, because maybe his shriveled up body that we've seen in previous trailers and in this one doesn't get any better, and he knows it. But knowing Ganondorf, I wouldn't be too worried. He probably has a plan in order to look pristine once again in a different way that we never expected. Whatever the case, his power is doing unspeakable things to the land. And over to what seems to be the Elden area, it looks like he's summoning some sort of giant molten monstrosity out of Death Mountain. And then we see a shot of Hyrule Castle falling apart like we did in the second trailer, leading to a view of Hyrule, specifically the Great Plateau, in a blood red haze. But to the left of the Great Plateau, we can see an inscription that we've seen from the previous trailer and in this trailer. It is truly captivating to me on what these patterns could mean in Tears of the Kingdom. And here we go. We have bokoblins now rocking new horns, but pay attention to the horns of the enemies in this game. We're gonna get to that later in this trailer. It looks like they were summoned here because the very first frame of this shot shows them floating like they were being possessed or something. after which they are hit and empowered by the Red Fury Malice. And now here we go, a shot of multiple enemies as they rise up to follow Ganondorf into battle. This shot of enemies includes Moblins, Bokoblins, Lizalfos, a new type of Bokoblin which is officially known as a Boss Bokoblin, and I don't know about y'all, but this looks like a Redead to me. I am so ready, let's go. As it's definitely an undead zombie looking thing with minimal skin and a torso very similar to that of Ocarina of Time Redeads. But that mouth though, looking sideways, yo, this looks like it's gonna be something we're gonna have to deal with massively. And this is what I wanted, more enemy variety. And if we're getting creepy enemies returning like Redeads, I can't wait to see what other enemies are in store for Tears of the Kingdom. Ganondorf really needs to pull out all the stops. As we see Link riding, I'm pretty sure that this is Epona, which suggests that we get Epona back either in-game or through amiibos, with a Hyrule Castle suspended in the distance in the air by the Red Fury Malice, and we can also see that gigantic cloud tornado in the distance as well. As this tornado is looking to be around the Hebra or Tabantha region, this is a shot of Link traveling from east to west, which will put him going along the front of Hyrule Castle town, or, you know, the remains of it. And now this one shot seems a bit weird, as this seems to be a dry spot either in northern or southwestern Hyrule. We see some activity under the ground, which could suggest new enemies, maybe a new entrance to the underground, or islands rising up from under the ground into the sky. It is truly unknown because this shot goes by very quickly. Moving on, we have Link within a Sheikah-like structure. This could be one of those still operational remains of a Sheikah tower that was converted into a watchtower. And while Link is in it, guardian arms that seem friendly enough prepare to assist Link with a service or something. The arm in front of Link seems to have some sort of apparatus, like a coil of some sort, maybe a battery, to be operated by Link or for Link. Maybe this is where he'll be able to upgrade aspects of his gear or maybe his arm. It's still unclear, but I know this place is a friendly place because it is not something run by the Yiga, as you can see Sheikah adornments all over the walls. Due to Link's confusion, this is probably the first time he's using something like this. And here we have a shot of the boss Bokoblin with an axe for a hat. Okay, that's weird. But check out the horns of the blue Bokoblins. It looks like depending on the tier of the enemy, they're gonna have different horns, which definitely insinuates that they're gonna have way more drops in this game. That a red Bokoblin horn is going to act differently than a blue Bokoblin horn when it comes to material gathering. But it looks like boss Bokoblins can rally together these other Bokoblins in sync in order to give Link a ton of problems. Then we have a Hinox in a cavern-like structure. Oh my goodness, let's go underground. On the Hinox's head, there's a spiked logged hat, I don't know what you'll call that, but around its neck seems to be a power source or a power core for the Zone machinery, which we're gonna get into later. Something that serves as a similar purpose in terms of a prize of taking out these Hinoxes when they had, you know, weapons or a Sheikah orb. But guys, honestly, you don't understand how happy I am for the underground in this game. As Link is running from the Hinox, you can see new plant life in terms of the grass and in terms of the walls that possibly only grows underground. But as Link jumps into the air to use his new paraglider, we see a shot going into Hyrule Ridge. But in the sky above, into the clouds, and in the distance, you see a ton of islands in the sky. And I gotta say, this is looking very good, by far way better than what we've seen before in terms of Tears of the Kingdom. And the fact that it's all rendered in real time has me incredibly hyped. Now this is cool. Link is riding Epona through a grassy field, but the field is illuminated in parts due to the inscriptions. We're actually here, and so look how big it is compared to Link. But in the distance, it's kind of blurry in this trailer because of the darkness. Is that a giant lion, dinosaur, rhino? It's something big, and it's something that we haven't seen before, and I'm hoping that it's a new enemy type. And speaking on enemies, here we see a Bokoblin being carried in the air by the new flying enemy near the Deplean Badlands with the Typhlo ruins in sight. And you can see that the Bokoblin here is holding a hatchet. We've seen it before in the previous trailer, but hey, new weapon variation. Continuing on with the enemies, we see Link fighting a bunch of moblins at Samasa Plain with Mount Lenaro in the distance, with a new rock structure looking to be one of the new enemy mounts. One of the moblins seemed to be wielding a new club-like weapon. So when it comes to the aspect of a ton of new within Tears of the Kingdom, yeah, we're definitely getting it. And when it comes to new, here we go, new block type enemy within the area of the clouds. Seems to be powered and built by Zonai Tech and Energy. It kind of looks like a Gargasalt from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, I know it's spelled Garganolk, but NaCl, that's literally salt. Anyways, I digress. When defeating this thing, it's probably going to drop some assets or parts needed to create new things that's going to be explored later in this video. And this honestly looks like Zonai architecture before it gets discolored and smoked by time. This is what it looks like when it's pristine. And when it comes to how you fight this thing, one of the parts seems to be a weak spot due to it glowing. So you're going to have to position yourself properly in order to take this out or weaken it to go in for the kill. Possibly with some sort of projectile at first and then going in to give it the business. In the background, we see a bunch of islands, even higher and higher. But now we got floating entities that are just straight up shapes, like a cube, that cube, which we're going to be talking about because there's a big idea behind that. And now we have Ganondorf, way more cleaner and detailed than what we've seen before. And actually, I believe the scene of him awakening in this trailer is an updated recreation from the very first trailer. That was an early idea, but now there's probably what's going to look like in the final product of the game. And here, you can see the malice pouring out from his heart. Pure hatred and anger manifested. Going off that, we see the floating castle of Hyrule with a cracked royal family crest on the wall outside of it. Very symbolic. And when it comes to Ganondorf awakening, he's shifting the rocks that make up the platform that also contain what looks like a ton of Zonai iconography, which probably goes into the spell that was keeping him trapped there in the first place. And that specific segment of the trailer ends off with Ganondorf fully awakening, just like how he did in the first trailer, but now it's nice and new. As the first part of the trailer has its music end, we are treated with Link in his new attire at such a high altitude where all of the clouds are below him and the horizon fades into a beautiful void. I can honestly look out into this shot forever. At this point, we finally hear Zelda talk, and she states that she doesn't think Link could succeed in stopping Ganondorf. Dang, Zelda, what happened to that confidence? I mean, it may have vaporized along with the Master Sword's blade, huh? As we look out into the sky, where it has a ton of structures connected by weird architecture at some points, we can see that some of the islands go high, and I mean really high. Also, the fact that Link is so close to a big source of malice, I mean, look at that over to the right. Considering his position, that's more than likely the top of Death Mountain. If you notice closely, you can also see a watchtower from below, and it's actually super impressive, like I said before, that all of this is rendered in real time. But let's take a look and talk about that big cube that we've seen before. Is that one of the labyrinths, one of the Zonai labyrinths, now floating in the air? It'll make a lot of sense considering that it was built by the Zonai and this game has a huge Zonai focus. I wonder what purpose it could serve now that it's in the air. But now, here is the money shot. Link falling from the sky with the new tear-like vessel apparatus on his hip with what seems to be 4 tears accumulated. What we see here in the distance when it comes to what's above him, a track, a bunch of rounded islands, and a couple of broken pathways. But what's cool about this Link descending into Hyrule is that you can notice a filter dissipating as he gets closer to the land, from blue to green. Possibly the sky filter is designating the separation point between the land and the sky, which honestly I'm so down for. I love when filters go into video games and make the colors pop in ways that we haven't seen it before or ways that we will like it to, especially Breath of the Wild going into Tears of the Kingdom. But as Link is falling into the shot, we see over at the top a watchtower still being illuminated even though it's daytime, and a pool of furious malice. Back on the ground, Link is running around what seems to be the outlook from Sahasra Slope, staring past Nabi Lake with the Great Plateau in the distance, with some weird Zonai markings going into the forest surrounding Batria Lake. You can also see a watchtower in the distance that seems to be in the same area where the Sheikah Lake Tower used to be, and no divine beast in sight, specifically Vonda Boris. But we do have this cube thing again. Honestly, given the position, It could be the floating labyrinth, specifically the South Lomai labyrinth. Here we have Link empowering an arrow with the green hand, by the way, called it with a theory years ago, to make a homing arrow against the new flying enemy somewhere which seems to be Rowan Plain, and what could be another labyrinth in the distance, specifically the North Lomai labyrinth. Now, look at this structure. This seems to be a floating island that is above the Maw of Death Mountain, but contains a mining transport system that Link is using to slide down with shield surfing. Here, a couple of bokoblins and moblins are overseeing the mining of something. I mean, look at that rock. A mouse-like rock? But check it out in the last frame of this shot. You can see a Zonai machinery wheel, another piece that we're going to be talking about later when it comes to a new mechanic in this game. But like I said before, this is giving me the impression that these monsters under the Order of Ganondorf are looking for something that is within ground or has to be mined. Maybe they're looking for parts to build Ganondorf a new body! But for real though, honestly, sliding down these rail-like structures seems like it's gonna be a ton of fun in Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, we've done it before in other video games. And now, yeah, the return of motion puzzles with gyro. Listen, I love the motion controls in Nintendo Switch's Breath of the Wild, but now it seems that we're using the Zonai power from Link's new arm instead of the Sheikah Slate, since we don't have the Sheikah Slate. But since this puzzle is in the overworld, it suggests that we're going to be seeing puzzles like this overall in this new updated world of Hyrule. And in the distance, we can see Death Mountain, still angry with all of that malice. Okay, now this shot is super spicy. Link is fighting against a luminous Talus, but the giant weapon he has is definitely of Zonai origin and has a power module that is very similar to the one that we saw from a machine in the second trailer. But as Link is doing a mid-air power swing, it launches an explosive green energy ball that absolutely smokes this Talus. I'm getting the impression that along with Zonai energy in this game, there's going to be a lot of crafting in terms of weapons and more. But before we get to that, we're once again in the underground. You guys honestly don't understand how hyped I am for this. I'm actually so happy that this is outright being confirmed time and time again in this trailer rather than being alluded to. And also, if you'll notice behind the Talus, it seems that there's a big deposit of luminous stones. Man, mining is gonna go wild in this game. So far, we've had a ton of gameplay, but now we are getting into a really mysterious story segment of the trailer. A mysterious entity that people are thinking could either be Zelda, Hylia, or the unknown Zonai goddess is holding a cloth or some sort of adornment while extending their hand out to Link, or what I assume is Link with his new arm. But there's a couple of things to point out in this shot specifically. The clothing of the still unknown character is completely new and could hint at a Zonai connection, as this could be Zonai adornments, because while it's new, it does match up with the architecture and Link's arm. But also behind this character, the structure seems to be a mechanism that is opening up behind them as the trailer goes on. Possibly that of a throne for this character, definitely suggesting this to be a goddess or the goddess Hylia. If this is truly the identity of a goddess or someone connected to the arm, this could be a cutscene playing in Link's mind or in a vision that has them gain the power truly in order to try and save this land with this new arm, possibly making a pact or a promise of sorts. After which, we get an awesome shot of Link above the clouds, enveloped by twilight, wink wink, as he ponders his new arm, and there's a bunch of sky islands behind him and in the distance of this shot. This is honestly wallpaper material, people, it's so cool. But check this out. We are in a familiar area of the Great Plateau, where Link uses his new Zonai power in a similar style to Magnesis, in which Link obtains a wheel from a very dangerous looking bog. But wait, there's a ton of other things to notice here too. Here in this shot, we can see what looks to be a new type of chest, a Zonai chest, on the top of a tree trunk in the middle of the bog. In the distance, we can see Malice spots that look way more dangerous than Malice ever looked before in Breath of the Wild. And aside from that, even further in the distance, that looks like to be a reflective slab that could be utilized for crafting something, which we're about to talk about. And here we go, riding on cars. Alright, this is a big deal, so for this one you better go grab some popcorn. I'm gonna break down what this means for a bit. This game is going to introduce vehicles, but not just vehicles, vehicle building, where you need to find parts like we've seen in previous shots of this trailer and put them together in a structure to use. But check out this car looking thing that Link is riding. The wheels, the lights, even the wood, and what looks to be a power supply is all put and held together by what seems to be some greenish glue or adhesive, Zonai glue, meaning that these things aren't whole vehicles that you find, but you have to build, and depending on the amount of parts you use, the more power supplies you may need. But wait, there is more. On the official site, it is confirmed that Tears of the Kingdom will utilize online support, and I'm 100% sure that this means you'll be able to make blueprints of these Zonai creations you put together, upload them to be downloaded by others on the internet to follow and create using your instructions and parts that they have to find themselves. This is going to be a game changer. Also, check it out, in the background we can see the ranch ruins. These vehicles are probably available to compensate the massive new additions to the world and make for more robust traversal in it, whether it be in the land or in the sky, because check it out, Link can actually make a hot air balloon, meaning that there's gonna be many different ways on traversal and many ways to get up into the sky. It's literally your imagination becoming unbound. And now bro, ayo, a 4 propeller air pad? This is getting nuts. This is getting super nutty. I honestly can't wait to see what kind of monstrosities people come up with when this game releases. But aside from that, what's interesting about this shot is not only do we see a giant ball in the distance, I mean, what could that be? But we see strings of some sort of energy binding the sky islands to the ground of Hyrule. I'm honestly guessing that these are ties of malice that somehow connect and tether these lands to the land of Hyrule that must be cut and freed when you go to each specific tethered island in order to advance in a specific way or portion of the game. But back to Link, yo, this man's zooming. And now, finally, in one of the final shots of the trailer, as Link rides through Hyrule Central Field, there are a couple of things to notice before we get into the logo fade. A great imbued piece of something falls from the sky to land below. A piece of treasure, something that could be sporadic like shooting stars, but also we can notice some Fury Malice pools on the ground that shows Ganondorf's dominion in this realm. But as we get a closer look to the shot while the logo fades in, it seems that even more Zonai structures already hitting the ground of Hyrule, suggesting that some of these islands may be falling apart in real time or upon getting closer in the vicinity of the island. There also seems to be a makeshift campsite besides one of the structures. As we look towards the sky in the trailer, more and more structures in the hazy sky become apparent, and like I've been saying before, there are some higher than others, including this giant one that bleeds into the dark part of the sky all the way at the top of the shot. Did you notice that one? And now, the final shots of this trailer after the logo. Ganondorf, still not awakened but definitely doing something, has his malice bursting from his chest, ready to give Link the business. But the thing is, Link already got the business as we finally see his arm heavily damaged by the malice, and that the Master Sword, despite being awakened and activated in the presence of Ganondorf, is covered by the malice and is going to somehow get busted up by it, which I want to know how. So the event that we've seen in the second trailer already happened, but man, look at my boy Link. He is going through it. As he anticipates the malice going for him, he drops the Master Sword and uses all of his strength to work his damaged arm, which we can see is charred, shriveled, and the damage goes so far that it eats away at part of his chest where you can see his skin caved in. Man. As he dives, we hear Zelda beg someone to give Link their power. This someone is more than likely the arm, who at this point is more than likely the true essence of the unknown goddess, or an envoy or an extension of them. And the final shot shows Link diving desperately to save Zelda from the crumbling chasm. But as alluded to in the second trailer, he is unsuccessful in catching her. As the heartbreaking shot ends, we get the reconfirmation of the release date of May 12th, 2023. This is truly going to end with some tears. Tears of the Kingdom. And I hope you guys enjoyed this analysis and secrets to one of the biggest trailers we've seen from Nintendo in a long time. Let me know what you guys think and if I missed anything. Leave your comments in the comment section below and be sure to like, share, and most importantly subscribe to HMK for more Zelda and Tears of the Kingdom content every week. Big thanks to my Patreon supporters for helping making this video happen. If you want to find out how you can support HMK for just $1 a month, check out my info in the description box below and be sure to pick up some merch over at my shop at Fourth Wall. Alright guys, until the next video, this has been your boy HMK and I'll check you guys later.